What's up, you stinking rotters? Welcome back to the podcast that takes a deep dive into the best, worst horror films of the 80s and 90s. I'm Stevie, your VHS veteran. It's Fright Fest week here in London, and it's my most anticipated weekend of the year. I say weekend, it's 5 days. That's much closer to a week than a weekend. I shall be attending, and I'm aiming to cram in 25 films over 5 days. I've never quite managed it. I've always bowed out at some point and then hopped back in after a rest, but after a year and a half of nature whooping our asses, I'm ready to smash this one. Will you be there? Let me know by emailing steviesbrainrot@gmail.com and we can all hang out. I'll be logging all the films I watch on Letterboxd, and I'm aiming to drop a mini review for each film too, so if you want to follow the journey, the handle on Letterboxd is Stevie's Brainrot. Last week on Patreon, I was joined by none other than Becky Darke to discuss 1997's creature feature Anaconda for everyone on the Ghoulies tier. It was such a nostalgic rush revisiting that one, and this week on Patreon, we'll be continuing our House retrospective with Brad Hanson, where we will be looking at 1987's House 2, the second story, and that's available on all tiers. So if you want to access those and a host of other bonus episodes, just head to patreon.com/Stevie's Brainrot. Speaking of Becky Darke, it's time for the main show. She joins me along with Mike Muncer to discuss two killer doll films, Stuart Gordon's 1987 cult classic Dolls and 1991's Child's Play ripoff Dolly Dearest.
Pleasant dreams.
Dolls. You're never too old to play with dolls. Until you're dead. Dolls.
Mike and Becky, welcome to Double Dolly Day.
Yay! Hello, mate.
Annual Double Dolly Day. Maybe biannual, I don't know. How are we all? What's going on in your world? Becky, hello.
Hi, darling. Lovely to be back. Thanks for having me. Very excited to talk about double dollies. Yeah, I'm all right. Cracking on.
Good. That's all you can ask.
That's all you can ask, isn't it?
As long as you're not at a standstill, you're cracking on.
Ploughing through.
Yeah, keep on moving.
Sifting.
Yeah.
And Mike, how about you?
Yeah, I'm all good. It's another week, isn't it? The week bleed into each other. But, it's August at the time we're recording this, which is quite exciting. It's quite exciting in the horror calendar as well, because I was like, ooh, Candyman's coming out soon and Fright Fest. And there's quite a lot of fun things to look forward to sort of horror-wise at the moment. So, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, it is. It's our time of the year, isn't it? Sort of, we're getting towards that, the witching months.
Yeah.
Including Friday the 13th.
Yes. That's next week.
Oh, my God.
Well, at the time of recording this, yeah, that's next week, I think. I don't know what day it is. But first time I had you on, you were on the main podcast and we talked about the 90s slasher Popcorn, very fun. And then you joined me on Patreon and we talked about the Italian 80s slasher Stage Fright. And now we're doing a bit of both. So in our Dolly Double, we are going to be discussing the late great Stuart Gordon's Dolls from 1987 and then the 1991 Child's Play ripoff Dolly Dearest. Yeah, so I think we're going to start with Dolls. Let's go chronological, conserve our energy, use it wisely. So before we get into it, Mike, can I have a little synopsis for Dolls? No, Becky.
I was like, shit!
Don't frighten me, Stevie.
Oh, I'd love to spring that on you now.
That was like that kind of the teacher asks you for your homework moment when you haven't done it, like hot flush. Oh my God.
Both of your faces then. Like, why would it even be a massive deal if it was horror and you were both like, oh no.
And also it's like, I know what happens in that film. I don't know why I was so worried about it. But anyway.
No, Becky, can I have your Dolls synopsis? Thank you.
Yes, you can. A mismatched group of strangers find themselves sheltering at a creepy old house during a raging storm, hosted by an old couple who, on the face of it, are a kindly doll maker and his wife, but they keep giving each other pointed looks and snickering behind their hands whenever somebody says something about witchcraft, so who knows. The unhappy family with an imaginative daughter, a couple of English hitchhikers on the rob, and an unassuming man-child soon realise they're in the middle of some gothic nightmare as the toy maker's creations come to life and the bodies start piling up.
Fantastic. That's very good. And actually, you really captured the atmosphere, because that's one thing that I think is sublime in this film, is the atmosphere it creates.
Yeah.
And as I said, it's obviously Stuart Gordon and produced by Charles Band for his Empire Pictures. It was written by Ed Naha, who wrote Troll and Doll Man, and also Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with Stuart Gordon. It was actually filmed between Reanimator and From Beyond, but it was released a year after From Beyond because of the time-consuming effects and all this stop motion required. But for me also, it feels like a very different tone for Stuart Gordon. You normally you get a bit more cosmic with him, or you come to expect something like that. What do you think, Mike? I know you're a Stuart Gordon fan.
I am, yeah. I totally get what you mean. It does stand apart, definitely from the sort of Lovecrafty stuff that he had done before this, right? But it does have such a fun look and style and vibe that I think goes really well with Stuart Gordon and Brian Usner. You know, it's kind of wacky, sort of primary coloured, bold. Yeah. It really zips along. It's got so much humour, and I think, like you said, and like Becky put in her synopsis, there's this feeling of like kind of, you know, characters kind of snickering, and it's like almost like playful. This whole movie, isn't it? And it's quite dark in places, but it's also really sort of innocent at the same time, I think. And there's a really nice balance of that as well, you know.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I think that's also where it gets very unnerving for me. There's something about the childlike quality mixed with some sort of extreme violence that it just affects me on a base level. It feels almost taboo because it's a violation of innocence. You know, is nothing sacred. Becky, what about you?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's sort of the like black comedy of it. Like, you know, Stuart Gordon and Brian Usner stuff often has this sort of seam of like comedy or sort of like tongue in cheek. Like none of it takes itself too seriously. But I think in Dolls, that almost sort of goes up to like not quite a sort of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids like comedy level, but it is much more innocent in certain places. And you almost have that like sort of Joe Dante-esque kind of playfulness. It reminded me a bit of The Burbs and stuff like that. This constant sort of playing off against sort of slightly more like wacky, almost sort of slapstick moments. And then, as you say, you have like these really, really vicious moments, like amazing gore and kind of really like, I mean, I'm sure that we will come on to talk about dolls in general being scary and why, but there were 2 or 3 moments in this movie that I was like, oh my God, I am not okay.
Yeah. And this came before Child's Play, right? So this predated the most famous killer doll movie as well.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it went this, then Child's Play, then Puppet Master, and then Dolly Dearest.
And then Dolly Dearest.
And Demonic Toys.
In terms of the classics, yeah.
Yeah. In that order, yeah. So what, actually, I will pick up that thread, Becky. What did you think of the dolls in this film? Did you find them effective? Because obviously they've chosen to use porcelain dolls, which adds a really horrible layer because they're horrid fucking creations in the first place without killing anyone. And I think Stuart Gordon said he got locked in a museum on a campus somewhere. I think it was in Michigan, and he got locked in their campus museum one night by mistake, and he was surrounded by this exhibition of hundreds of porcelain dolls, and that's where the fear and the inspiration came from. No, so what do you think of the dolls in this?
I think they're fucking terrifying. Like, I think it might be the first moment that you see one of their faces change. So it's just like, you know, blank kind of porcelain expressionless. And then it's like the corners of its mouth turn up, and it's kind of like brow furrows, and it suddenly does like this evil little face, like it's literally about to just tear your throat out, and that just carries on for the whole of the film. And this idea about, you know, them in this one using these sorts of porcelain dolls, what I find really effective is a little bit like something like Puppet Master. They all look different. So obviously in Dolly Dearest, when we get to that, or like Chucky, they're all kind of the same. Whereas in this, like, I love that you kind of get some that have little characters. So you've got like the cowboy doll, or like Punch, obviously. But there's something about that when the camera will sort of turn round and they're all like lined up, just kind of looking at you, and they've all got their different creepy little faces with like fury, like absolute fury on their faces. Like, yeah, no, I think they're really scary.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the addition of the bloodshot eyes as well is just a horrible thing to put on a doll. It's bizarre. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, they are really scary, really creepy. I mean, dolls always are for whatever reason, aren't they? And, you know, I remember both these movies we're talking about. I've got such kind of nostalgic feelings towards these two movies because I remember seeing them when I was a kid in the video shops, you know, like the front covers of them particularly, and the just the really creepy images of the dolls. And obviously the sort of video box of dolls was this kind of like this doll with no eyes sort of holding these eyeballs in their little hands, you know, and it terrified me as a kid. And like you said, Stevie, there's something kind of unnerving about that weird tonal sort of tightrope that it walks, because I remember especially thinking this as a kid, because I watched it, of course, when I was way too young to watch it, and I found it really sort of uncomfortable because I was like, is this supposed to be a kind of funny, almost kids movie, or is it supposed to be a horror movie? And that in some ways was even more unnerving. So yeah, when you had that kind of wacky comedy mixed with these terrifying dolls, like Becky said, suddenly all being lined up or moving off screen, and they'd suddenly be in a different position or whatever, I found it terrifying. Yeah, really unnerving.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, as you say, yeah, treading that line really, really works. And I think actually they were going to make it much more gory, and then we'll come to it. There's a few bits they cut, I think, but they actually changed their mind. It wasn't a censorship thing. They actually changed their mind and pulled away from some of the gore, just so that balance is there, which is really off-putting because you don't know quite what you're watching.
Yeah.
But let's go through it a bit. So the opening scene, when we meet our family, it's little Judy and her father and wicked stepmother. I think it's cracking. I think it's like the beginning of a haunted mansion Hammer horror type sort of setup. What do you guys think?
100%. Yeah, that's exactly what it made me think of, and it leans into that so much. The idea of this storm, and the car doesn't sort of break down, but it gets kind of stuck in a ditch or something, and you get that again. Like, you're already sort of in there with that sort of slightly slapstick side of things, where Dad's trying to push it, and the mud sprays up, and then his foot kind of goes into like the muddy hole, and it already gives you quite a good glimpse into the incredible dysfunction of this family and just how much they clearly dislike each other. Like you say, like wicked stepmom, but Dad also obviously has no time for this poor kid.
Yeah.
So bad.
She gets such a hard time. But yeah, it is. It's like, you know, cracking thunder and lightning, and oh look, a house just on the just in the distance. It's walkable. Let's go there for shelter. It's like, it's just absolute classic.
It is. It's the old dark house, isn't it? From like 1932. It's that template. It's so good. And again, really weirdly juggling all those different conventions, isn't it? Of kind of gothic horror with kind of, like you say, almost slapstick and everything. And I love that little girl as well. I mean, it's so rare that you get a child character that isn't really, really irritating. But I thought she was brilliant in this all the way through. You know, she really sort of held it all together in a way, I think, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's quite obsessive because actually this bit with the bear, so I've got a few things to say about it. I mean, it's kind of an iconic moment. Carrie Lorraine, who played the little girl, she was actually truly traumatized when filming that moment by the big scary giant bear, which rips out of, you know, the giant version of her lovely child toy. And then to add fuel to the fire, the asshole crew members would hide close to her on set and do like growling noises to tantalize her, which I just think is so atrocious. Yeah. And she was traumatized. But she fucked off acting after this and became a criminal defense lawyer, so good on her.
Good on her.
Fair enough. Wow. Yeah, that's a weird moment though as well, isn't it? The bit with the teddy. Because also, is that all in her mind, right?
Yeah.
That moment. And then is that kind of setting up the idea that this whole thing could be like in her imagination or something in some way?
Right. Well, this is the thing which I wanted to ask you guys, because I don't know about you, but it really grates on me. In films, these are things I hate. I hate visions, I hate dreams, and I hate nightmares in films, but only if they are portrayed as reality and the joke is on us, the audience, for thinking it was real-time action, because it sets it up for then anything we see from now on could possibly be imagined. And for me, it takes away a bit of the tension, but maybe I'm just like a sore loser because they got me. I don't know. How about you?
Well, I think this is something that we discussed, like we did on Mike's Patreon recently, a couple of the terrible Hellraiser sequels.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And we were sort of talking about in that, weren't we? Like, you know, you sort of get to the end of it and it's like, oh, well, none of this has happened. It's just his kind of, you know, his experience of hell, and it's all in his mind, and, you know, all of this, or you wake up and it's all a dream, blah, 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 blah. And it does, Stevie. Like, I absolutely get what you mean. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, right, well, firstly, that's just undercut everything that I've just watched for the last, 90 minutes. And secondly, now I feel like a bit of a twat because you had me. In this, like, I like it. I like this idea. It's got a good theme running through it, this film, of children not being believed and kind of adults almost sort of losing their imagination, you know, sort of losing that like childlike sort of magic and dreaminess, and they set Judy up really early as having this like overactive imagination. And so the sort of bear sequence, like for a 7-year-old to be imagining that in the first place, like him like coming out of the bushes and like literally tearing her stepmom's arm off, but also stepmom's kind of asking for it, so I don't blame the kid. But yeah, so it kind of sets up this imagination thing, and you know, they play on that so much then throughout the film. But I'm always somebody who watches films very much kind of what I see is what I get. So I don't often like to get to the end of a film and like try and question like, oh, well, was it real or not? I'm just like, I'm always yeah, it was real.
Yeah, it just, I don't know why, it always seems to bother me. But I know this film, so I know that bit ends up being a daydream. But as you say, Becky, for her to imagine that, she's a person of question. Like,
I think maybe therapy for that little girl, especially after what she's about to go through in this film. And she ends up just kind of riding off into the sunset with some strange adult man. It's like, all right, fine, that
whole thing. When the parents are questioning his intentions to their daughter, I'm like, yeah, too right. And you know, she's not helping. Like, she's saying things like, oh, I want to sleep with Ralph tonight, my new special friend. It's like, then he steps up as a father finally. Jesus. But before we get to that, we meet our toy maker and his wife, Gabriel. So yeah, Gabrielle comes downstairs with her. Yeah, she comes down with her eye patch on. She's got a wife called Hillary. Gabriel and Hillary, and these characters. It's very fairy tale. Some of this, they're very heightened to that level, and I think it serves the film well. Though, as we've been saying, it makes it so much fun, and especially watching it back to back with what we're going to talk about later, which is a film that just doesn't have any fun whatsoever.
Yes, it takes itself so seriously. I love that tone that they bring to this. It's such a. I think we've talked about this when we've talked about other films before, but those moments when nothing horrific is happening. It's still really fun in this movie because it's so weird and the people are so strange and quirky. The characters are all quite exaggerated and they are all a bit cartoony, but it makes it so much fun to watch, doesn't it? And that couple are amazing. Hilary Mason, who she was in Don't Look Now. She was the really crazy, freaky psychic from Don't Look Now. I've seen your little girl. She's smiling. And she's really weird in that as well. So she's just brilliant at being that again, it's that knife's edge of being kind of a bit quirky, but really, really sinister at the same time, you know?
Yeah, she's fabulous. Is her real name Hillary? Did I get?
Yeah.
What's the character name?
Hillary. No, you're right. They both.
Hillary playing Hillary. Yeah.
What? That's lazy. Speaking of all these characters, we get our supporting characters too in Ralph, Enid, and Isabel when they come in for shelter from the storm. There's a lot of acting going on between these three, but there's some choices, but they are my clear favourites in this film. Were you a fan of their choices, Becky?
Yeah. So I love Ralph. Huge fan. And when I sort of I said earlier about this film sort of having a bit of a Joe Dante vibe. Like, he reminds me of the kind of best mate in The Burbs. This kind of slightly like jolly, sort of wisecracking, kind of playful, slightly annoying kind of guy who's, a bit hapless, but very enthusiastic about, the toys and stuff, which is very cute. And he's sort of very much played as this, kind of young at heart guy who hasn't lost that like childhood magic and is actually sort of a bit like ashamed of it. You get this impression that he's like, I try to be a grown up, but actually I'm just like really like in awe of like all of these cute like music boxes and like dolls and cowboys and stuff, which I love,
Love it.
So cute.
I mean, I'm 39, my house is absolutely covered in toys, so I'm this guy was like, Ralph is a man after my own heart.
Kindred. And then also, but Enid and Isabel. What are your thoughts on them, guys?
Brilliant accents, right? Like, "Core blimey!"
It's very Oliver Twist, isn't it?
Hello, darling, fancy some gin?
Well, and you can tell they're British characters because they use words like wanker and buggering.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get off of that buggering couch or something, she says at some point. It's like nobody uses that as like nobody.
It's brilliant.
I think maybe we should start saying buggering to each other.
Buggering.
Let's do it. Yeah.
But I think they are actually British actresses, but as far as I'm aware, they didn't have those broad Dickens Cockney accents. Because I know the girl who played Enid ended up being in EastEnders for a while in the 90s.
No way.
The girl who played Isabel was the girl in Aha's Take On Me video. You know, the one where it's drawing and then he pulls her through. That was her.
You're kidding.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, they do both look like they belong in 80s music videos too, right?
100%.
To be fair.
Well, Isabel is just, head to toe Madonna, isn't she?
Yeah, so good. Just in case there was any doubt as to when this film was made. It's like, there we go.
It's brill. But we meet our first proper non-daydreamed doll in Mr. Punch, and he is given conveniently to a girl conveniently named Judy, and this fucker creeps me out so much. Mike, I know you text the group when you were watching it saying Mr. Punch can fuck right off. That was it.
He can fuck right off. He's scared. Well, Mr. Punch and Judy, what a weird fucked up creation they are anyway, right? And I think there's those kind of associations with it anyway where you think that's a weird thing. And the look of Mr. Punch, that kind of like, ooh, cheeky smile, but I'm actually going to deck you any minute. Like, there's something really, just really sinister and intimidating about Mr. Punch, isn't there? Basically,
domestic sort of violence with a smile.
Yeah, the sort of person that you would desperately try and avoid in a pub or something. You know, like that's Mr. Punch, but also in small, uncanny doll form. So like I find Mr. Punch very unnerving from the first second we're introduced to him. I'm like, oh no, this is not going to go well with Mr. Punch, is it?
Totally. Yeah. Even though later he kind of becomes an anti-hero and helps out a little bit. It's so strange. But Becky, you're not a fan, I assume.
No, it's like the design of a Mr. Punch puppet with kind of the hooked nose and then like the chin that almost like comes up to meet it. And there's like a hunched back sort of situation. And I mean, I'm not into I'm not into like clowns and stuff anyway. And I know that Punch isn't technically a clown, but he's got that kind of like the
Jester
outfit
vibe.
Jesters, exactly. Plus, I mean the domestic violence situation is unsavory, isn't it? But it's like I don't want to skip too much towards the end, but when you then get the transformation of Dad into Punch, that like whole hook nose, like hook chin thing, really
so good,
amazing
so
stuff.
good.
Do you know what? You're so right, and it's crazy. I've just had a bizarre flashback. I'm funny saying I was just saying how much I hate flashbacks, and now I'm going to give you one of my own.
Yeah,
I've just realised where it stems from. So that whole thing about the hooked nose that almost meets the curved up chin, it's a very witchy thing in how witches were depicted. And there was a book. We had fairy tales, hardback fairy tale books, and there was one I had of Hansel and Gretel, and I remember the witch in it, her nose nearly touched her chin to the point where there's maybe an inch between them. And it used to terrify me, these images and the drawing. And there was a bit where she was by the furnace and her face was slightly melting. Ooh. And I've just realised that's exactly where that stems from. That's why Punch hits that place with me.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, we mentioned it. The whole thing has got a fairy tale vibe, obviously, but particularly Hansel and Gretel, right? There is a Hansel and Gretel feel, I think, to this whole movie. Yeah.
And that's what she's reading in bed.
Yes.
Little girl.
Yes.
It's all in there.
I love that bit where she's like, Hillary says to her, like, oh, we'll get some meat on those bones, and like pinches her finger. And then when she's in bed, she reads the bit where the witch is like trying to fatten them up and pinching her finger. And she sort of looks down at her fingers a bit like, oh, shit.
The little looks that girl makes is throughout the film so good. Love it.
Yeah, she's got such big eyes. They're so expressive.
Yeah.
We get the first death, actually. This is Isabel. And this is where we see the dolls sort of come to life for the first time on the shelf. And they've got the bared teeth and the bloodshot eyes. Really horrible. And this is a really cool death because we don't see them doing it on this one. This is where they sort of slam her into a wall.
Yeah.
Just like repeatedly into the skirting board.
Yeah. It's rough though. She's got like teeth missing. And they're going, wee! As they do it.
That is horrible, isn't it? And it's often offset with quite kind of like wacky music as well, you know? But the thing about dolls, I suppose, in all doll horror movies is like they've got to get around that idea of, well, they are just tiny dolls. So they're never really going to overpower a human being in terms of strength. So they've got to find ways to either... They've got to kill by surprise in some way so that you don't see them coming, or there's got to be enough of them, I suppose, to sort of overpower a person. Because this is a pretty brutal, violent death, like slamming a whole human body into a wall over and over. It's like, you know, but they work in packs in this movie, don't they? They work in packs.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a great moment. And when she's just getting dragged off and you don't quite see them, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And then this is where some of that really witty dialogue that genuinely made me laugh out loud when Judy's showing Ralph where she saw Isabel get dragged away, and he said, and she goes, I think it was around here, and he goes, you think? And she goes, I'm 7 years old, what do you want?
So good.
And I love it when at first, so just before that, when he's in bed and she comes into his room and like wakes him up, and she, again, with this sort of like kids' imagination not being believed thing, and he's sort of like, oh, sure, the elves or whatever, like, we'll check in the morning, and goes to go back to sleep, and then he like sees the blood on her like little like teddy bear slippers or whatever they are, which is quite an image in itself. And then he sort of goes, oh, you were telling the truth, weren't you? And she says yes, and he just like, the way that you see him kind of psyching himself up, he's like, okay, let's go. Like, he's good. Like, I like him.
He's brilliant.
Yeah,
really good. And it is as creepy as it is on paper in a way. This dynamic, it's quite a feat that he doesn't come across too creepy or sinister. Actually, does he? He is quite I do really like him as a character. You know.
No, 100%. And I never did think at any moment that she was at any risk from him.
No.
Which actually then when like the adults start pointing fingers, as you would, like you absolutely would, that then turns it funny. It's not like a kind of creepy, icky feeling like, oh, I'm not entirely sure that I'm on board with what's happening here. It's like, you know that he isn't. And so when they start doing the obvious thing and pointing the fingers, like it almost turns it into comedy, where you're like, you're watching it from the outside like, well, yeah, obviously they think that.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, because he has this childlike quality and this innocence inside him, you just hang on, let me rephrase that. It sounds really weird.
There's something inside him.
Something really young inside him. Oh, God's sake. All right. Moving on. So then we get probably the most memorable sort of death scene in the Wicked Stepmother, Rosemary. And this sequence alone took 4 days to film because it was so technically difficult with all the puppeteering and disguising of strings. It was nearly impossible for the editor to actually cut it together. And he resorted to drawing with black marker over the strings on the film just because. But I mean, that clearly worked.
Yeah.
It's such a great sequence because you've got the stop motion and many different sort of techniques in there. What do you guys think of this?
Just amazing, isn't it? Yeah, I love it. I marvel at all those moments in this film. Like you say, the stop motion, and then other times when it's clearly just probably people moving them around like puppets and that kind of thing. The moments when the dolls kind of interact with each other as well is really funny. They give each other looks as if they're communicating on deciding quite what to do with these characters at moments and that kind of thing. It's so clever. It works so well. It kind of brings them all to life, I think.
Yeah. What about you, Becky?
Yeah, and it's that again. There were moments during this sequence that I was a bit like taken aback. You know, like when they're like soaring into. They've sort of they've got a hacksaw, and because they're little, there's like one of them on either side, like a lump, like you're cutting down a tree, and they're like going into her ankle with it. Like moments like that. Again, you know, we're talking earlier about this balance, and it's these moments that really like go there and are quite vicious and brutal, and you're sort of thinking like, oh God, like, ooh, that looks like, it looks good, it looks painful, and I think it would be quite easy, you know, you're dealing with dolls, which are, you know, traditionally like a plaything or whatever, and you know, this sort of tone of some sort of comedy elsewhere, it would be quite easy for it not to have that like feeling of viciousness or being scary. But for me personally, it totally manages it, and I'm watching it like, oh fucking hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you say it looked painful. That hacksaw moment, Carolyn Gordon, who played her, who's actually Stuart Gordon's wife.
Yeah, she turns up in a few.
In a lot of his films.
Yeah.
So the hacksaw, apparently when they were filming it, went through the prosthetic that was on her foot and actually ended up going into her actual foot. So that's probably why that looks so good.
Mate.
Oh, God.
Rough. But also, as you were saying, Mike, about the fact that these are tiny little dolls, so the way they attack people has to be sort of clever. And so by trying to saw off her feet, they're trying to bring her down.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a really dark Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah. And they'll sort of jump off of a shelf, sort of brandishing like an ice pick or something. And then they'll come down sort of into somebody's shoulder. And again, that feeling of like, because it comes like from sort of a jumping motion from behind. It's like
from a height.
Fuck, that looks like it would really hurt.
Yeah, this is one of the moments they cut. They had a much gorier bit where one of the dolls was pulling out her intestines with a pitchfork.
Oh my
So
God.
that's how she died. So they end up coming up with the bit where she jumps out the window, which she didn't need to do because there are doors either side of it.
Yeah.
She didn't go into another room. But I don't know. I mean, with my sick brain, I would have loved to have seen her intestines come out. But I get it. I get why they thought that was maybe too much.
It's a shame there's not now a version, right, where we get to see the intestines.
Thing.
Yeah,
I don't think they haven't even got it on the cutting room floor. It's just gone, I believe. But it just then it comes thick and fast, as you say. Even in between attacks, there's all these horrible images. Like Enid now finds Isabel in the attic, and it's one of the creepiest fucking things on film. Did this bit get you?
100%. It's that's one of the genuinely creepiest moments, isn't it? And just again, like these sorts of images and the way bodies are presented and eyes and all of this kind of thing, right? Again, it just taps into everything that I think makes us inherently quite scared, probably. And again, that weird tonal thing where it's like, oh no, we're actually going to give you some serious horror now at this point, you know, just for a moment. It's really good, really effective. Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Yeah, I was just going to say, to Mike's point, what he said about like the way that the body's sort of placed and stuff, because there is something sort of, she looks like a broken doll. Like that is it's the way she's sort of propped up and her legs are a bit sort of askew at a bit of a slightly unnatural angle. And then, obviously you get, I mean, it's the cover, right? Based essentially this thing where it's almost funny. Like her eyes kind of pop out and like fall to the floor. And Stevie, like she has to sort of like,
scramble
around for them, and then picks them up and sort of holds them like on either side, and so you've got like those empty sockets. And it's just such an image, but again, like it could kind of go funny slapstick, but it doesn't. Like it's horrible.
It's really, really effective, and her creepy voice going, "Go away, run away."
Yeah,
it's just horrible. And that actually, the image, what Charles Band always used to do with his films was put out a poster first, create just a poster and a concept on poster. So that poster was created with the doll with a bit of skeleton and the two eyes. And so it was then put in by Brian Usner. He was like, well, we've got to find a way to put that in the film. Then they came up with this bit, and it's truly one of the best bits. And also then when Enid starts smashing them with her belt, and we see that they have these decaying skeletons inside, and we get like a bladder effect, one of the back of one of the dolls, and it just makes it so much darker suddenly.
Yeah, and this is, I guess, what starts introducing this sort of reveal that these dolls may have at some point been people that have been transformed into dolls, right? They're not just made out of wood or whatever and have come to life. There's something more, even more weird about them, that they maybe are kind of half human, half doll or something like that, right? And that in itself is pretty gross and terrifying.
Yeah, I think it's fab.
I really love that reveal when it's sort of, it suddenly takes a bit of a, just for me, like an unexpected turn, where, you know, you do, because dolls are creepy anyway, and like, you know, there are stories going back hundreds of years about just sort of haunted dolls and things like that, and I just thought, oh well, they're just, you know, dolls that have been kind of enchanted to come to life, or they've come to life for whatever reason. And then as they're sort of like their porcelain faces get sort of smashed to bits, and you see those like withered whatever behind, like those sort of sad little like blacking sort of faces. All of a sudden I was like, oh hello, all right, doing something a bit different here.
This is one of my favorite designers. He did all of the Empire Pictures, so all of the really trashy sort of B movies, John Cole Beekler, and he designed all of these sort of things, and he was a true monster maker, and they were never brilliant or great. I mean, they were, but compared to some of the Stan Winston creations, because they were rushed and they had to be done so quickly, there's something about that raw material look about these things that I think is so much more effective, and that just, it gets me on a completely different level. We also then, this is when we find out that kind of the doll's MO, when Ralph and Judy are trapped in the storeroom with hundreds of dolls, he stomps on one, so they attack him, but then they have a discussion, the dolls, about actually, is he a big kid or is he an adult?
This might be my favourite bit in the film.
Me too. I love it. I thought when you said earlier, Mike, about them having these little interactions, the first thing that popped into my head is this little, like, this sort of little conflab that these four of them are having. Like, they're so cute. They shouldn't be cute, but at that point, I'm like, I'm with these guys. Like, they've won me over.
Because actually, this is where you realise they're sort of they're quite these moral creatures, right? Where they are only killing the dickheads, essentially, in this film. The people, like you said at the beginning, Becky, the people, even the adults that still have that appreciation, that wonder and awe, that childlike innocence, they spare, basically. And the horrible, cynical, selfish, greedy adults are the ones that get it, right, as well. Again, it's like such a fairy tale, it's such a morality tale in a lot of ways.
Totally.
But also that's such a morality that goes into most 80s horror films too, right? That's the slasher format in a way, like the misbehaving characters die, the pure characters survive kind of thing. So it's a really interesting mix of the two, you know?
100%. Yeah, it's completely that. It's got that moral narrative through it. I think I do really appreciate that now, not when I was younger, because I didn't like anything that felt slightly cheesy. But that's what saves his life. And then, well, this is where Mr. Punch steps up and defends him, because obviously Judy's dad, quite rightly, is suspicious.
Well, no, because he's found his wife now, hasn't he? Like the bed, because you get that. I fucking love this. The sheets.
Oh, so good.
That blood spot just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's so cleverly shot where obviously we can see it and he's like behind her so can't see it, and he thinks that she's in a strop and he's horny, so he goes to have a shower, and then when it then comes back to it and he's got his like fresh pajamas on and stuff, and at that point the blood spot is like so huge.
So good. It's really effective, that, just watching it slowly absorb into the sheet.
Yeah, simple but effective.
It's so good.
Yeah,
really
good.
Forgot about that. But yeah, so then, of course. So he thinks Ralph was also not only molesting his daughter, but killed his wife. Right? And so he goes for him. But Mr. Punch steps in. And that's what I mean by he's a kind of anti-hero.
I guess he is, and I guess ultimately all of the dolls are that sort of sort of character trait, don't they? I mean, don't fuck with them all, clearly, but I guess they're going to stick up for people that deserve it.
Yeah, and then Hilary and Gabrielle come back downstairs. They're back on the scene, and then this is this third act where we have them kind of explaining everything about why they're. The dolls are alive and that they're a witch. And is he a warlock, I guess, or is he just the toy maker?
I don't know. But she is very clearly a witch, isn't it? Because at some point the dad calls her that. Is it her? Is it the dad or is it Ralph? One of them anyway sort of says to her like, you old witch, and she goes, he's figured it out. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So he's making the toys and she's bringing them to life, or she's turning people into them or something, maybe. Yeah. But
it feels very much like they have deliberately set this mud trap outside so that they constantly have this conveyor belt of possible immoral people that they can turn into. They have to come and learn immoral. A lesson. That's a bit of a stretch, isn't it?
That's sort of what I was thinking. Like, it's not like it's this one-off where these people have shown up and they are like absolute assholes, and so the house or the kind of toys decide to exact a revenge and teach them a lesson. It's like there is this conveyor belt idea behind it, and it's like, how can you guarantee that everybody who turns up is like an absolute asshole?
Yeah. And they don't. That just continues at the end of the film too, right? Like they don't. This is quite unusual in a way in that there's no like beating the monster. Like nothing happens. They don't defeat the toys or anything. It's just like the good characters get to live and the bad ones don't, and that's kind of it. And I absolutely cracked up at the fake letter.
That whole bit was.
My God, it's just so funny. I love it so much. Dear Judy, I've decided to leave you forever. You can go back and live with your mother. Don't worry about it. Don't come looking for me. And
we're going to another country and changing our names.
And it's when Ralph says, "What about the other two girls?" Yeah, and he pretends there's more written. He goes, and we took the two girls too.
And then throws the letter into the fire. Absolutely. I loved it so much. It made me laugh.
He says, because it says, Ralph, make sure you get Judy to Boston safely. And Ralph says, I couldn't afford that. And the guy goes, Gabriel says, he's given you enough money for your plane ticket too. And he goes, that's funny, he didn't seem that generous yesterday.
And then he doesn't respond to that. Gabriel's like,
it's just brilliant. Like, I love it so much. And
obviously you mentioned it earlier, but the wonderful transformation of the dad into the Punch doll. It's great. It's great.
Yeah,
and then we get the final sort of shot of the four dolls of the people who have died. So Enid and Isabel and the two parents, and there's doll versions of them, and her sort of Sunset Boulevard outfit.
Yeah.
Actually, talking of Enid, so we haven't talked about like her death, and you know how we're saying like all the assholes are kind of getting their comeuppance. Now, I actually feel really sorry for Enid because she's not that bad. Like, it's Isabel who wants to do like all of the stealing and is kind of being a bit more kind of like foul-mouthed and stuff around these like polite old lady, polite old people. But can you remember her death? It's the firing squad.
Of course, the toy soldiers.
The toy soldiers.
This was brutal.
It really is.
Yeah. The constant. There's like 3 or 4 rounds of bullets that go through her. Right. It suddenly turns into like a scene from like Platoon. It's like slow motion. And she's like arms in the air, slow motion, watching her kind of drop to the floor. Oh, it's great. It's great. It is. There's again, it's like that slight mean-spiritedness to this film that is like, it gives it an edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Enid's the smart one, and as you say, she's not particularly bad. She's just being dragged along by someone who is bad. Yeah. And also I love that their tiny little guns shoot clearly full-size bullets. It's insane.
Right through her, like these fucking
the power on them. There's exit wounds. But that's it. It's such a really it's what 77 minutes. It's
77 minutes.
Fun film, and they fill every minute, which is as I said again, going into the next film. There's so much dead shitty time. It's just. There's not a minute that it slows down in this. And even the very last conversation as they're driving off is really kind of funny / sweet / weird. Where she's like, have you ever wanted to be a dad or whatever it was? She's just like, oh, it's really sweet. Yeah. And even the credits, there's a whole scene going on of the new couple breaking down outside. It's fab. Any last thoughts on it? Because it's just great, isn't it?
I loved it. This had been a big blank spot for me. I'm a huge fan of Stuart Gordon. And it's always been like one of those ones where it's like it's slightly ridiculous that I haven't seen this, and so I'm so happy that now I have. Like, it's gone right up there for me. Like, I've given it 4 stars on my letterbox. Like, I fucking loved it. Like, really, exactly like you say, 77 minutes zips by. They fill every minute. It's got a great balance of kind of gore and like charm. Huge fan.
Yeah, I agree. I almost wonder why sometimes Stuart Gordon isn't as regarded as one of the greats in the way that Wes Craven or John Carpenter are, because he's so good. Every time I watch a Stuart Gordon film or a Brian Usner film, I'm like, this is so much fun. It's so entertaining. It's really well made. It's
inventive.
Really,
they're always like pushing things, aren't they?
Yeah, it's clever. It's witty. Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, great. So that was Dolls from Stuart Gordon from 1987. Now we are moving on to the 90s, to 1991, and we're going to be talking about Dolly Dearest. Mike, Becky, could I have your Dolly Dearest synopsis? No, Mike, you take it.
Yes. So, Dolly Dearest. After Elliot Wade gets a new job in a doll factory, he, his wife, and his 2 kids move to their new home in Mexico. At first, everything seems great. Little archaeology enthusiast Jimmy Wade gets to explore a cool new area, and his little sister Jessica becomes infatuated with her brand new dolly. But sadly, all is not quite as it seems. Not far from the factory is an ancient evil satanic tomb, which is soon disturbed, and Satan itself possesses the dolls and eventually Jessica. The result is a straight-to-video rip-off of The Omen, Poltergeist, and Child's Play as killer dolls and satanic children run amok.
Yeah, well, can't say fairer than that. So, before I ask your thoughts on it, let me just preface why this is here. So, this film, to me, is a very special nostalgic revisit, and I rented this film so many times when I think I was 10 or 11, more than Child's Play. I don't know what I really don't know what brought me back to it so much, but I rented it so many times that the guy in our local VHS shop eventually just said, "You can have it."
Oh,
And he gave me the proper box. You know, not when you rent a box where they put it in a different little VHS box. They put it in the proper big XV rental box and gave it to me. And it's one of my prized possessions. And I don't think I've seen it since then. And so I knew I need to revisit it. And I knew it probably wasn't going to live up to my childhood expectations. But I had to cover it on this podcast. But what are your thoughts? Becky, I'm assuming you hadn't seen this before.
I hadn't seen this before. And I think when you reached out to Mike and I about the Dream Warriors coming on and doing Dolly Dearest, like, I know Mike was really excited because you guys have kind of talked about it like a couple of times, sort of talked around it on Mike's podcast. And I remember like hearing you guys talk about it. And Stevie, you know, when you were sort of talking about your love of horror and your introduction to horror and stuff, Dolly Dearest was always one that you talk about, and that you know, you kind of have this amazing nostalgia for, and it was really formative for you. So I was really delighted when you asked us to do this one.
You can be honest.
It's not great, is it? I mean, it's fine actually, and I didn't dislike it. I had an all right time with it, but if we're comparing it or talking about it in the same conversation as Dolls, whereas that is packed very tightly, this, I was making an omelette, I was on my phone, I was like having full conversations with people over WhatsApp, and I'd look back up and there'd still be somebody just sort of walking around a warehouse with nothing really happening. So like, it's fine, and you know, I've got a lot of really fun stuff to talk about with it, but it's a bit bloated. And also it's slightly racist.
Oh, 100%. Yep, lovely. Mike?
Yeah, it's flabby, isn't it? It's a flabby film. I have sort of similar vibes to you guys, and you know, a similar kind of thing as you, Stevie. I saw it for the first time when I was young. I think I've only seen it once, but like I said earlier, I was kind of obsessed with the idea of it from the video cover of it. I thought it looked really scary just from the look of that doll. And I remember renting it, and I think even as a kid I was like, oh, this isn't quite as scary as the idea of it in my head was, you know, like it isn't quite as good as I wanted it to be, and kind of never revisited it since, really. And yeah, it's all right actually. In some ways it's not as terrible as it could be. Like, I think it's kind of sort of conventionally well made enough, really. Like, it's not so bad that it's not so bad that you'd laugh at it. And maybe that's the problem, is that it's a sort of just a little bit bland, maybe. It's a bit, and it feels a bit too much like a bunch of other films, maybe, as well, I think. And it takes its, like we've talked about, it takes itself very seriously. But there are some fun moments in it. I think it could have just maybe shaved 20 minutes off it.
Yeah, 100%. And at this point, we'd had Child's Play 1 and 2, and Child's Play 3 came out the same year as Dolly Dearest. And I read on the internet somewhere that in its original conception, the original script, this was actually Child's Play 4. But it's the internet, and I don't know if I believe that, considering it came out the same year as number 3. It just doesn't. I don't know. I don't know if
that's interesting.
Is right, but it was directed by Maria Leese, who up to this point had only directed erotic comedies, whatever they are. But I don't think they're like Animal House sex comedies. I mean, erotic comedies. But her main line of work was actually in the script and continuity department, which she still does to today, I believe. She wrote it as well. She co-wrote it with Peter Sutcliffe. I'm assuming not the Yorkshire Ripper. As he was caught in 81.
Oh my god!
I literally just kind of recoiled from my computer as you said that. What? It's so bad to hear that name out of any other context. Like, what the fuck?
That's amazing. On IMDb, this is his only credit. He co-wrote this. I hope, but I mean, he was caught in 81. And unless
I like the idea that she was visiting him in prison, and they were just like hashing out this script together.
God.
Maybe it was like they did it through like a letter writing correspondence. Like he wrote all of his half on toilet paper and smuggled it out tied to the legs of pigeons, you know. Explains a lot. I reckon his is all the flabby bit.
Yeah, I think
Well,
it does
maybe.
explain a lot. Yeah. there you
Oh
go.
gosh, but no, I don't think it is the Yorkshire Rip. But we've got Denise Crosby, who plays Marilyn, the mum, from Pet Sematary, and this
Tasha
is
Yar
after. Yeah,
from Pet Cemetery.
sorry, the mum, the mum. You're going to start crying about his little shoe again now, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I am. But yeah, I mean, she turned up on screen, and I was like, Tasha! It's always nice to see Denise Crosby show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little crossover there that it does have with Child's Play. So Ed Gale, who plays the dolly when you see it running around, he's a little person, and so when you see the dolly running away and it's all just her legs, and so he played that, but he also was Chucky's stunt double on Child's Play 1, 2 and Bride of Chucky.
Good fun.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
interesting.
What did you say
he
his
has
name
played
was?
both. Ed Gale.
Ed Gale.
He's done loads. So there's not that much to talk about, so we'll just try and jump to the good bits, really, and talk through those a little bit. But so I will start. It begins in a Mayan temple, and an archaeologist accidentally unleashes an ancient evil. What did you guys think of the effects here of the ancient evil?
Oh, they're like those cool kind of like iPhone effects, aren't they? Like Instagram story effects that you put on. Just random red sort of fizzy lines.
Animation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Of its
Yeah.
time.
I quite like that it runs
Yeah,
when it was
runs.
running with claws.
Do you know what it reminds me a bit of? Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. And do you remember
my
there's like
God,
these like
yes, the
beams
little
of
worms.
light and worms that come out
yeah.
of him?
God,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah. It's that early 90s thing, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that Jimmy the son on the plane is reading a book that's called Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good Kids?
That's great. Do you know what? That's what it needed more of, that kind of humour. If it just had a bit more humour, you know?
There's actually another good book bit later that I noted down. So when Mum is sitting reading a book on, it's literally called like Children and Parenting, as she just keeps looking over the brim of the book at the clearly haunted dollhouse that her child is playing in with a cursed doll, as some slightly sort of sinister wind chimes just sort of blow in the wind. She's just reading like this like parenting book, right? I just thought it was so
Nice.
good.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
So they've got the comedy down when it comes to the books in the
Yeah.
film.
yeah, basically the prop department clearly like we're having some fun, but no one else. Yeah.
I was a little bit confused about this whole business venture. So
Yeah.
he's going to, well, he's been kind of lied to about what this factory's like, that is already producing these handmade Dolly Dearest dolls, and the person who made them died, and so he's come over to take over the business and hopefully make them a worldwide phenomenon. So were they just local dolls?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't quite understand that either. He's coming to take over this already existing doll manufacturing business or factory,
Yeah.
I guess. Beyond that, I have no idea. Yeah, it's very
It doesn't
weird.
really matter though, does it?
I mean, to be honest, this is where like some of the kind of slightly anti-Mexican stuff comes in, because it's like so. All of the Mexican people in it are either evil magicians from the past, stupid locals who have like never done a real estate sale before and just copied all of the inventories and kind of surveillances and stuff from an American like thing that he found online or something, or they're like uber Catholic like housemaids and nuns. It's like
they're like kind of harbingers almost. Yeah.
Honestly, it's
Yeah.
it fine, you know, it makes sense that you get these sort of, you know, I guess a white American business person and his family coming to a small Mexican town, and you know that could be seen because like they're very much like rolling out the red carpet, aren't they? And these very sort of unenthusiastic family at every point. It's just like, oh, look at this beautiful kind of hacienda that we've been given. And,
I know.
Oh no, we've got a housemaid. Oh, if only she wasn't so religious. Like all of this.
Yeah.
But it is those moments of like these local guys where it's just like they are being shown to be kind of stupid and inexperienced, like
on their own turf as well.
On their own turf, basically just because they're Mexican, against these very sort of worldly white people who have shown up. Like.
Yeah, and it has this weird sort of. It's also going for an almost kind of swashbuckly kind of, like almost like a kind of Raiders of the Lost Ark vibe, I think, right, at times. With kind of uncovering ancient tombs and Mayan and all of that kind of stuff. I guess it's something that movies like the Conjuring movies still sort of dip into a bit as well these days, don't they? But it's got a real kind of vibe of that as well, where it's trying to be almost a sort of action adventure movie or something at the same, but not very well.
And those exorcist elements of disturbing an ancient relic.
Yeah.
I'm so bored of Exorcist rip-offs. I think it's my least favourite rip-off, I think, is Exorcist.
And not even like just that, but like there are moments when the doll's face starts, like as she gets more and more evil, like it looks like Reagan when she's in the bed, like even the way her hair kind of falls and the way the skin is, and moments when Jessica starts kind of screaming and like swearing at her mum and stuff. Like it's all very like you say, Mike, just total rip off.
Yeah, did you get, Becky, the Omen from this as well?
Did I get it? What, the bit when she's in the back of a car having a fucking screaming abdab tantrum because there's some religious stuff nearby? Yeah, might have noticed that.
Might have noticed that. I know. It was like, oh wow, they're not even hiding it. Yeah.
No. Yeah. There's quite a few inspirations for this film. But actually, you just talked about the doll and the actual doll design. What do you think about that? Because as you say, it's quite a long way into the film until we get the sort of Chucky animatronic, the sort of old lady face, almost very sort of Don't Look Now when it's that. Actually, I really find disturbing towards the end when she's got the full wrinkled face. What do you think of it? Did it work for you? Or no?
It's the thing is that what they've done is made this doll, in comparison to the dolls in Dolls, more overtly monstrous, haven't they? Like they're not, apart from a couple of the early moments in the film, like when you just see the head turn in the rocking chair or whatever. They actually make it look more demonic and monstrous, which I don't know. There are moments when it looks kind of creepy, but I sort of think that doll was so fucking ugly and scary as it is. Yeah, I almost think it could have been creepier as it was if they had done a bit less with it in a way. I think it's scarier in those initial moments when it's just sitting on a shelf smiling or sitting in a rocking chair and it just gently moves its head or whatever. I think maybe they go too far with it in places for me. Yeah,
I enjoy before they get to the bit where the face is completely transformed. When they do attack moments, they've obviously just got the doll with the usual face and the mouth open going, ah, completely still, and they're just shaking it. And you see, literally how a doll looks like when you shake a doll. The hair goes the opposite way to the head. It's just dreadful. But it was sculpted by Brian Wade. Obviously, this was low budget, so he did what he could with what he had. But he's worked on so many films: Psycho 2, Piranha 2, Reanimator 2, all the twos.
All the twos. Wow.
But he also he was the sculptor on the Blob remake '88, which obviously is fucking
amazing.
Great.
I like to think that these are the sorts of dolls as well, where when you tip them horizontally, their eyes close, and every time one of them got knocked over, they're like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" because their eyes keep closing without them needing to.
And you said dollhouse, but I used to call it a Wendy house, right? And also, some people call it a windy house.
Yeah, those people are idiots.
Okay, good.
Yeah, there is a Wendy house, like 100%. And in fact, I know I called it a dollhouse right now before, but that's because the mum at one point calls it a dollhouse, and I'm like, I mean, it's not, is it? I mean, I know what a dollhouse is, and that's a Wendy house. So although she's going through some stuff at the time, so you can't really hold it against her.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to know? Let me just give you a little insight to how dark a child I was when I was young. So we had this is a terrible story. We had a Wendy house in our back garden, okay, and it was infested with wasps in every corner. It had a proper wasp's nest.
Every time I talk to you guys, you talk to me about fucking wasps.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. Here we go. This is when this is how I first learned I was allergic. But this isn't a story I'm telling. I used to send kids that I didn't like in there on my birthday. And I remember Mark Winters, I've used his real name now, he got stung and then he wasn't allowed to play with me anymore because he told his mum that I made him go in and I shut the door behind him. I mean, I was a dark kid. But hey, Mark never came back to my birthday. Little shit. He was a bully anyway. Hi, Mark.
He deserved it.
So it was kind of like my torture device.
You're like that kid. You're like the mean kids in Sixth Sense, where they like make him go in the cupboard and then they won't let him out.
Becky, we need to bear this in mind before we next go to Stevie's for a birthday party, you know?
No, it was only because your parents would invite everyone for you, wouldn't they? And then there's people you don't
even the
like.
Kids you hate,
Yeah. And so,
true.
yeah,
that is true.
And it worked. He never came back. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, if that was your play, then well done. Like you nailed it.
Yeah.
It worked. Anyway, I love that's much more interesting. But we do have to go back to the film. We see the doll. It's quite slow. We see that it's alive straight away, but no proper action happens. Like we see it in mirrors and
before the
places.
demonic voice starts coming out and all of that. You know,
very
Gollum
voice.
The Reagan voice. Yeah,
the voice is really, really annoying. Like, there's something. I don't know, in Dolls, I was about to say in the first one, like this is the sequel. No, in Dolls, I find it creepy when you just sort of hear them like, and like sort of like, sort of behind doors and stuff. Whereas obviously the doll in this one, like, talks in kind of full sentences, like to
Jessie, come and play with me.
Yeah, but the voice is like, it's almost got they're like modulating it somehow. They're doing something to like put an effect on it, like auto tune or something.
Yeah,
and like I don't know, like it just didn't
like Cher. Yeah,
it's
like Cher's voice. Yeah, it's true. I wonder again if it was sort of playing on by this point the success of the Child's Play movies where Chucky, Brad Dourif talks so much, right, compared to the dolls of dolls, and it's not Brad Dourif, is it? That's the thing, you know.
And also they go as far to nearly rip off, "Wanna play," which is Chucky's line, where so Dolly Dearest always says, "Time to play?"
Yeah. Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah. Question mark?
Don't
also,
sue us.
If this isn't like a 900-year-old Mexican demon child, why is she speaking English?
Yeah, well, good point. Good point.
Yeah. Well, the first death we get it's Camilla, isn't it? And she has a horrible time. I don't know why she doesn't unlock the door that we see Dolly Dearest lock, because it's not a key lock. She just slides the bar. Yeah.
You just see that horrible little hand just push something across.
The hand, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like that. But yeah, she gets a knife in the shoulder, a slash across the face, and then electrocuted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit harsh.
Really harsh. And the electrocution is like full on as well. Like it stays on her for quite a while. Like camera stays on her for quite a while, and she's sort of like sort of like flailing around kind of in the water with all the lights coming on and off.
Yeah, they commit.
But what did you think about when Dad discovers her body, and she just sort of like, because it looks like he's sort of trying to, he's like trying to find what it is and sort of like pull it up, but then she like literally like
jumps out.
Her.
It's like Brandy's trainers in
I Still Know What You Did. Brandy's trainers.
It was ridiculous. Like she was a balloon coming out of water, just like whoop.
Yeah,
it was fantastic. Yeah. I loved that, to be honest, and I thought of Brandy's trainers in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. So the next day, Jessie, the little girl, has cut her own hair, but it is a full salon blown.
Oh, it looks
fringe.
phenomenal. Yeah.
She's got dark roots, so she's even coloured it. And then she says, "Don't I look like Dolly now?" And I'm like, "Not in the light. You look like Farrah Fawcett."
Yeah.
Dolly's got straight brown hair, and you've got a full Marilyn wig.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, that must have taken her and Dolly a while to sort out, right? But good job.
Yeah, quite. Someone is very talented. Also, you got Rip Torn, which is the best name ever. Playing the archaeologist,
so
Carl.
Good. So good.
And this is where it just gets really dragging.
It is a good name, but also the guy that plays the dad is called like Sam Bottoms, which is quite funny.
Yes, it is.
Also good. Does he?
Rip torn bottom. Oh,
Ooh.
torn bottom.
Oh.
Torn bottoms. They're their collective
On
surnames.
bottoms.
But it just all gets a little bit slow and draggy.
And can I just ask, while we're on like some of the kills, because the kills are quite unusual. I suppose they're not just like your typical kind of stabby slash.
No.
It's like electrocutions and all these kind of things. What's the deal? Not to jump ahead too much with the guy that is killed,
Louise.
where his chest is moving.
Let's do jump to that because everything between the Camilla's death and this is absolute trite.
Yeah, drivel.
So yes, this is Louise, who's the night watchman.
Yes.
Discuss.
Yeah. What happens to him? Is that supposed to be that he's having some sort of
A heart
attack?
Yes,
A
but he
heart
seems to
attack
have
that
5
causes
hearts.
blood to come out of his mouth.
And also 5 hearts all over his stomach and chest.
I thought that suddenly loads of little dolls were going to burst out of his chest or something.
Right.
I was like,
If
ooh,
only.
we're ready for some good prosthetics here or something. But no.
Yeah, because Dolly Dearest puts his hand through the sewing machine, which is great. And so in response to that, he rips open his shirt, drops to the floor, and then we see loads of bubbles under his skin, which is apparently a heart attack. Also, this is the moment when we find out it's not just one doll; all the dolls are possessed. But I can't quite work out if they have autonomy, which they must do. But
I think
a
they're
lot of the
probably like
time,
the Borg, aren't they? I mean, they're just there's one sort of queen doll somewhere
Yes,
off
yeah, right.
on a spaceship.
Yeah. And they all just kind of have their sort of evil lair, don't they? Where they all just kind of hide and hang out in that sort of factory or whatever it is. And you just always see them hiding behind like a barrel or something.
Yeah, in barrels.
Yeah,
just like sort of pop up, see what's going on. Shall I do something evil because this is a horror film? Nah.
Now, wait a bit. Yeah.
So before we move on from Luis, I would just like to say that he gets what he fucking deserves, because that is some proto incel chat that he is giving to the doll that he is
Creepy.
like role playing a date with. And at one point, when he makes the decision that she has rejected his advances, he says, "You women are all the same. You're ugly anyway, and your nose is shiny."
Yeah.
What the fuck, Louise?
Serious
and then I
issues.
think he just follows up with one last hit, which is, "And you've got a big head. All women have big heads."
Weird. It's very weird.
Being rejected by a doll just so you can be kind of like hateful in return. Like I was happy when he had 5 heart attacks.
Yeah, right. And also, if it's a one-person role play, you can make it go your way.
Exactly my point, Stevie.
Yeah, you're in control. I mean, that's weird. Very weird.
Oh my god!
He
But
is
he's
also
dead.
a man in need of therapy in this film. Yeah.
Quite. Jimmy, the son, comes into the factory because he's been chased by a dog for about half an hour outside, really randomly. And then we get the bit where there's the doll's head and the tongue comes out behind his back.
That's
and puts it back in.
bizarre.
Loved it.
Isn't it?
Loved that
I
moment,
loved
but I
it.
don't understand it. But great, more. If there was just more weird shit like that in this film, I'd be into it. You know,
But that was another bit that made me think Exorcist, because it does look like that bit where Reagan has the like
Yeah.
definitely, and also a bit Freddy Krueger. I thought.
Yeah, the phone.
Yeah.
What's the spirit's MO at that point if it doesn't want him to see it doing that? Or is it?
No.
I suppose it is. I suppose it is an evil child spirit. So maybe
Yeah,
it's being
good point.
playful.
Fine, we'll
Sure.
forgive it. Yeah.
Marilyn, she goes on her own research mission about the Sanzia tribe and to nuns and all over the place.
Yeah, this again for me was like the Omen when they go to visit the old monk in the monastery up in the hills.
Yeah,
this was
classic
like
speech of an ancient evil from a nun. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'd also just like to quickly call out Denise Crosby's wardrobe in this film. It is on point. Everything she wears looks fucking amazing on her. It's very white woman on holiday in Mexico.
It is.
But just like
single white female.
yeah, just lots of sort of full skirts, wide belts, a nice sort of frilly sort of like shoulder or collar situation, or just like a nice sort of wide strap. Looks like she might be just wearing a bathing suit under a skirt. I just wanted to call it out because I think she was doing excellent work.
Yeah, she looks fit. And
She looks
kind of,
amazing.
but the thing is, she's a brilliant actress, and she gets a couple of moments in this to show that. But I just feel like someone else could have taken this job.
She is she a brilliant actress?
I was going to say, is she?
I don't know. I haven't seen her in that much, to be fair. I'm going off of this and Pet Sematary, where in both films she plays quite clunkily distressed mothers, basically. True. Neither of them that great.
I think she's better in this than she is in Pet Sematary, in which she is dreadful.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I do. But everyone in that film is kind of dreadful.
Yeah,
but that's why I love it.
Yeah,
apart from, yeah.
She's
great as Tasha Yar, but she doesn't even get a lot of chance to do that before she's eaten by a big ink monster or something. Spoilers, sorry, it's really early now. Get over it.
If you haven't seen it by now.
Yeah, exactly.
The book's 40 years old. And then it's the final showdown back at the house, and the Dolly's in the chair. That bit actually I like, where she turns around and she's just going and baring her teeth, doesn't get up. Just looks at her going,
they kind of snarl, don't they, these dolls? They snarl at people. It's very weird. Yeah.
And Jimmy gets his awesome line, play with this bitch. Nice.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I feel like he's really been working up to that moment. Like, he spends this entire film wanting to be like a kind of like a cool sort of, like, he's like the one that wants to be the action hero, right? Like he's sort of, clambering about in the tombs and sort of you know, doing all his research. Like, he's basically like a little sort of mini Indiana Jones wannabe.
Yes.
So I'm glad that he gets his kind of his cool one-liner moment.
Yeah. He gets to be the hero.
This is one of the moments, I mean, about the autonomy of it. So surely all the other dolls know that one's now exploded. So why not just send another batch over to the house? I don't know. It just seems like they're not communicating very well to me.
Yeah.
But then the big plan is, because all the dolls have hung the dad upside down over a vat of something, or is it a big drill? I don't know.
It looks like it's like a bit of doll making machinery. It's kind of it's gonna like crush him, isn't it? It's like a
fine.
Right.
But he gets saved by Rip. Just love saying that.
Rip. Yeah.
And they blow the place up. And Jimmy says, "I'm going to go blow up the mine, or the tomb, I think." But we don't see that happen.
No.
We just sort of zoom out of the burning factory, and then it's credits.
They only had the budget for the factory and not the tomb as well, in terms of blowing stuff up.
There's a nice bit with one of the dollies, because like, as they're kind of going around and lighting the fuses on the bunches of dynamite, the dolls are like going round and then like taking the fuses out, which I really liked. I thought that was really funny. But then one of them doesn't get to it in time, and so she just looks at it as it goes down, and she just goes, "Oh."
Yeah.
And then it goes.
Yeah,
and the
it's a classic. Uh-oh.
Yeah. And then you get demonic screaming and like spooky smoke, as obviously all of the
yes,
the spirits are released.
Yeah.
Oof. And then roll credits straight away, right? It's
straight
away. Yeah.
Before anybody can ask any questions about why we haven't seen the mine blow up, just roll them.
So it was interesting revisiting it. The thing is, I think having that giant VHS box, it's not about the actual contents of the film. It's the actual symbolism of the object itself that means something to me. And I don't think I ever need to see this again. But no,
and it's
glad
not. I covered it. It's not terrible, is it?
No,
we've seen worse. We've talked about worse between the three of us. I'm sure.
God, we have actually.
But maybe it's also back to back, like you say, Becky, comparing it with Dolls, especially, which is just so much fun. Yeah, it's just a bit slower going, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, and no joy or fun.
Yeah,
silliness. But yeah, any last thoughts on these two? No, cool.
No, not really.
Right,
I think I was going to say was talking about them both in relation to sort of Chucky movies and what influences what and stuff. Do you think that Curse of Chucky has a real Dolls vibe to it? That's what I was thinking.
Because it's in the house.
Yeah, the house and the little girl that kind of befriends Chucky in the house with the kind of awful sort of adults in that house and everything as well. And I was thinking about it rewatching Dolls, thinking, Curse of Chucky kind of, I wonder if it was sort of aping a bit of the look and vibe of Dolls a little bit, you know?
I think that's a good call, actually, because it does have that slightly more, like Curse does have that sort of slightly more sort of gothic with like the elevator, like sort of that clunky old elevator and stuff.
And a bit more almost fairy tale-y kind of vibe to it, I think,
yeah.
you know, compared to the others. But yeah.
I think I'm a fan of Curse of Chucky.
I
Actually,
am.
was it you, Becky? Did you recently rank them?
Yeah, well, so I recently, oh my God, guys, I went back into CEX. Anybody who knows me knows how much of a CEX hound I am.
Yeah.
I have missed CEX during the pandemic more than I've missed some members of my own family. And I finally revisited like last week, and it was so exciting. And I found Cult of Chucky for like £3. And it was the only Child's Play film that I hadn't seen. So it was like quite the find. And so I have finally now finished my Child's Play watch through, which is the first like actual big horror franchise.
Well, you've seen them all.
All of them.
I see, yeah.
Because I still haven't seen all of the Nightmares. I still haven't seen all the Halloweens. Friday the 13th. I haven't seen all the Hellraisers. I've seen some of the worst ones, but I haven't seen all of them. So yeah, I finally finished Child's Play. And it's funny that you're actually drawing comparisons, because when in Dolly Dearest, it does reveal that there's more than one doll. That then reminded me of Cult, when you get all of the Chuckies.
The variations.
Chuckies. I thought that was the best thing about it. I was like, this is the film. I want multiple Chuckies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've seen them all just in time for the TV show, which is going to start soon, right? As well. So excited. I could not be more excited for that. Yeah.
I'm actually very excited about that.
Yeah.
It's just, you've said a few times, Mike, that the Chucky franchise, especially considering it's just a killer doll, that franchise, quality-wise, is probably up there as the best.
Yeah,
100%.
It has the most hits and the least misses, I think, of any franchise. At least
all the hits,
one.
none of the shits.
Yeah, at least a franchise that has more than, say, 5 entries. I think it's the best. Yeah, definitely. So good.
Yeah. But thank you. That was our Dolly Double Day. Thank you very much. Becky, tell the people at home where they can find you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been so fun. What am I up to? I've got various irons in the fire. October is shaping up to be quite exciting. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, obviously. But yeah, there's some cool stuff going in the diary. So you can find me on Twitter at Bunny Darke. That's probably the best place. I'll be sharing everything there. And if you want to support my podcasting stuff, you can find me on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Bunny Darke.
Amazing. And Mike?
Thank you so much for having me. I've absolutely loved this. You can find my podcast, Evolution of Horror, in all the normal places where you can find podcasts. We're doing alien movies. Actually, if you like Stuart Gordon, me and Becky soon are going to be doing From Beyond alongside Event Horizon. And obviously Stevie's coming on to do a couple of 80s schlocky classics as well.
Oh, yeah.
Very soon, so that'll be good. And yeah, other than that, I don't know when this is going out, Stevie, but if it's before Fright Fest, if anyone listening to this is going to Fright Fest in London, come find us. We'll be around, won't we? Either at the pub or in a cinema somewhere.
Hells yeah.
Hells yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you both very, very much. And until the next time, toodles.
Bye.
Happy double Dolly Day, everyone, and thank you to my always incredible and hilarious friends, Becky and Mike. Next week, I'll be covering a favourite of mine. It's Larry Cohen's The Stuff from 1985. I'll be joined by the homies of horror, Erica and Roshane. If you haven't heard their podcast, make sure you subscribe now. I discovered it earlier this year, and after literally one episode, I knew I needed to get them on Brain Rot, and we had such a good time, and I can't wait for you to hear it. But in the meantime, search for Homies of Horror and get listening to their back catalogue. You will not regret it. I'll see you then, rotters. Toodles!